Good, not even evening, is it? I'm wishing my life away now. What a poor result today, obviously. Freddie, thanks for joining me, my good man. Same old song, isn't it? Really disappointing. Obviously, for the first 25 minutes, I'd say longer than that. I thought we were very good in the first half. I think it was a bit of an unfortunate goal to concede. I think both Casemiro and someone else, can't remember, just didn't mark Welbeck at all and came from nothing. I thought we started the first half very um, brightly. And it just didn't click for us in the second half, did it, Freddie? But how are you feeling after that? Lots of turmoil and lots of group chats, and it's difficult. I know as a United fan, obviously I'm disappointed, but things need to change. But just the reactionary comments I'm seeing is just a load of bollocks for me. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. No, hi Mark, hi everyone. Hey Hammer. It's a bitter one to swallow. It's disappointing. As you say, it was a positive 20 minutes, and it's always the hope that kills you. I think the first goal came completely against the run of play, but again, it was the same old story. Some of the players walking around, no one tracking back, a lot of ball watching. I think for the Brighton's first two goals, they had only had two shots, so it was 2 out of 2. So yeah, it really was a poor performance from 20 minutes onwards, and ultimately it was a fair result. I think you can't really dispute that. I think it shows where Brighton are in their sort of cycle at the minute, and to be honest, it's not really a shock. This result, it's a hard game. Brighton are one of the top teams in the
Yeah,
league,
they are.
certainly quality wise and form wise. So I'll be honest with you, this was always going to be a difficult game. Um, so it's not a real shock on that part. And I think just given the sort of the atmosphere at the club on and
Mm,
off the field at the
mm.
moment, it was always going to be difficult, even if that didn't exist. But there's you've got to take the positives. I mean, I thought Regulon
Yeah,
had a
very
very
good.
good game,
Yeah, very
very good
good.
game, very unexpected. So I think that was a big positive. It was good to see Hoyland make his home debut.
Hmm.
Certainly some positives. I think he had some good sort of phases of play. It was a very difficult game. He lacked a
Hmm.
lot of service. I think Brighton had a game plan.
They did.
They dominated the midfield. Welbeck dropped deeper, and their fullbacks. You know what you're getting with them. They won the midfield battle, and we were starved. Or Hoyland and Rashford were starved of supply. And I
Hmm.
think thinking back, and I think Ten Hag got it wrong. I don't think you can go two up top
Mm.
against Brighton. Certainly in the first half, we had a 4 4
Yeah,
2
played
diamond.
played Diamond. Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Mm. And I think that was the wrong thing to do. But again, given the lack of players, injuries, off the field issues at the minute, it's a problem. It's a real problem at the
Mm,
club, and I think I'm a little bit concerned, if I'm honest,
mm,
with the direction we're going in. I can't see a style of play, uh, and I think that's a real issue. And what I mean by that is you can't go from just a 4-4-2 diamond. We haven't played that in
mm,
pre-season. We haven't played that all season so far. I don't know what I don't know what the aim of the game is. You know, I can tell you how Brighton were going to line up and how they were going to play before the game started. They had players missing, but then the players who can come in can
mm,
do an equal job. Um, we don't seem to be able to do that. I mean, the likes of Palestri, we decided not to loan him out. In theory, if we're missing Anthony, if we're missing Sancho on the right, we need players who can just come in and do the job. You know, fit the
mm,
manager's philosophy, the style of play. Evidently, that is doesn't exist at the moment, or it's not being sort of fed through to the players or just the rest of the team. So it's a real issue. Hopefully, it's just a hump. Obviously, we've got a few players missing to injury. A few players who have just sort of recently got minutes, i.e. Hoyland. We've got Amrabat to come in. I think he's going to be a big help when he
yeah, I think
regains
it
his
will.
match fitness. But I don't think it's an embarrassment to lose to Brighton. It's a bit of a shock. It was only, I mean, it's been 5 minutes since the game ended, so it's a bit raw at the minute. It's a bit of a shock, but they're a fantastic team.
Hmm.
Who are sort of on the rise and began to have a bit of a bad spell. So no, no shock. It's always disappointing when we lose, but there are positives to take out of it, and we've just got to take that into the next game.
Yeah, I think you've summed that up wonderfully, actually, Freddie. And just going to come to a couple of comments. Obviously, Hammer, I'll bring you in a moment. John here, I understand your frustration, and I understand and empathise, obviously, with how you're feeling. Not sure if I completely agree. So he said here anyway, hey guys, awful performance, symbolic of what is going on at the club at the moment. Absolutely right. Manager and the team made mistakes again. I think probably right. Getting tired of it, but off-field matters will affect performances on the pitch. I'm going back on what I said there. I absolutely agree with all of this. Where I might have maybe have disagreed was the manager and the team made mistakes again. I do understand everyone's point with this. I think these guys know what they're doing. And I think the bigger problem at the moment for me is that there's huge gulf in quality when we look at the squad as a whole. Okay, I think that a 4-4-2 diamond was working very, very well. It's something, as Fred said, that we haven't done too much of. And again, this comment here, Fernandez playing it, he was doing a job. What else did we have? Varane's out injured. I think we're missing some massive key players. And anyone will go to Brighton or Brighton go to anyone and will struggle, I think, at the moment. I think they are that well drilled, that composed. It's very, very difficult to get any sort of result. And listen, with the start that we had, probably feel like we should have got more out of it. Probably we didn't. And I think then it's easy for us to say that Brighton obviously come out on top and done very, very well, but they did. And I think that anyone prior to the game were concerned about getting absolutely swamped. And that wasn't really the case. So I think, as you say, we've got to take positives. Hammer, thank you so much for joining us, my good man. I hope you're well from the States. How are you feeling after that?
A little annoyed, a little frustrated. I think Freddie was a little more capable of putting across in a more positive, well
Diplomatic
mannered.
way.
There we go. That's a good. There we go. Diplomat. That's a good way for it. Yeah, I think some of the comments, like I know Falcons probably, especially with the gotta go part of it. I think it's just frustration part of it as well. I don't know what some of the decisions were further in the game, but like you said, I think that was he was playing with what he has or something like that. But yeah, I think the only thing that's Ten Hag's saving grace right now is the off field stuff that's going on and the injuries. I don't know what the outcome of the off field stuff is going to be, but I think once the injuries come back, things will hopefully be a little bit better. Um, I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating because there was a point in it when I was. Yeah, that is true. There was a point in there when I was watching the game, and I'm like, the kids and the new guys have more fight in them right now, and that's what's frustrating me. Like the people who should be, like the Rashford walking around, things like that, like different things like that was where I got frustrated because, of course, we were getting outplayed after, as you guys said, after the 20th minute after they got that goal, and the frustrating thing for me is that a couple of the goals just were easier than they should have been. The
Yes,
defense
they were.
was out of sorts, not communicating well, whatever the issues were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, man, it's a frustrating thing, and I think it's gonna get better when people are back. But Ten Hag needs to get some results, and I tweeted at one point too. We got Bayern next, and I don't, so it's not like it's getting any easier. But something needs to be. There needs to be an answer. There needs to be a response because it's games of poor performances that is more frustrating than just taking some losses. You know what I mean? Like I can handle losses. We've had frustrating times at United for however many years at this point.
Too
It's
long.
yeah, but it's so we can take the losses, but it's when you're getting played when you're playing this poor, and in this case, especially at home, that's when it's an issue. And then I'm
Yeah.
sorry also to just add
Yeah.
on
No, go on.
it was poor once it fell off and things got out of hand, but also we dug ourselves in this hole once again with the clinical part of it. right? Hoyland, I think, played great when he was playing, and I think he's probably on a minutes restriction right now, so that's probably why he got taken off.
He did,
But we just weren't clinical. You know, there were times when Rashford, and there were some where he was cutting it back, but there were other times where it was like, I think one that went into the side of the net, and I couldn't tell if he was trying to play it back across the face or if he was trying to take the shot on his left foot. But there were just opportunities
you
where
Hoyland as well.
Yeah, he's like right there. Yeah. So that's what it is. It's the clinical part of it as well, and that's what you have to give Brighton their due as well. You know, we had parts of the game where we were getting some control, but once they got their opportunities, they took their opportunities, and we didn't. So,
yeah, tale of two halves, I think, for Marcus Rashford. I thought he looked very threatening in the first half, and then just completely fell by the wayside in the second. Very, very difficult. And I think you're right, Hammer. I think we almost played into Brighton's hands. They were happy to kind of sit back, play on the counter, and were very, very decisive, as you say. Brighton have ended United's 20-game unbeaten run. 2 times we've been beaten at Old Trafford in the Premier League, or the last 2 teams, Brighton and Brighton again. Certainly a very difficult team for us at the moment. John here, Brighton have a clear style of play, and the commentator said even when you make 6 changes, they play the same way. I remember hearing that absolute point. We still have players who can't play one way, different players suit different styles. I think there's some good points in this one. I think we're missing a lot of players. I don't necessarily agree that we don't have a style of play. I think that there is something there, but I think that he's missing his big pieces. I think that fundamentally root cause starts from the top, all the off-field antic, all these things that are coming out. We've had more statements in the last few weeks than we have goals. And I think that says a lot. Freddie, it looked like you wanted to come in there, my man.
No, I actually agree with what John's saying. I listen to most of the matches on mute, so it's interesting to hear the commentator mention that. And I mentioned it in my piece at the beginning. You should have your subs should just come on, and you should just continue as you're playing. I think the game's changed recently. You see Liverpool do that. You see your cities do that. It's like for like. They can just fill in gaps with X players, and you don't see a change. And it's just it's like a battering ram. You just wear the opponent down, and eventually, it comes off. I mean, at the end, it was right. We're just throwing everything at it. I mean, Bruno dropped deeper at the end. He was sort of a quarterback role. We put on Palestri, put Garnacho on. Rashford played out of position. For the game, I think he had a very poor game, certainly second half. We're just all over the place, and it is a mixture of injuries off the field. I totally appreciate that. Recruitment. I think any manager we have, they're managing with one arm tied behind their back from the off, because recruitment is just non-existent. Not even just the income. You have to sell to buy at United. We can't sell, so instantly that bleeds any manager of 1 or 2 additional signings, which could be a game changer throughout the season. But I just think, even just looking at our bench, we're 2-0 down. Who've we got? Martial, Garnacho. Beyond that, Dan Gore, Hannibal came on. I thought he took his goal very well.
Yeah,
but,
very good goal.
You can't count on that every week. And then you look at Brighton's bench, their main man who everyone's going on about, Evan Ferguson, hat-trick last week against, I think, Newcastle, and everyone else. So, like Billy Gilmore, first team players they've got. So, it's a tricky time.
They've got such a good squad.
The disappointing part too is weren't they saying some people were out too? Some of their main guys were out, so that wasn't even.
Solid match.
If their main guys were in, the people who were playing now would have been their depth, and their depth would have not even been in the squad or some. That's what I'm saying. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And I think, just quickly, Freddie, before you carry on, I think you make a really good point. I know that we can look at the common denominator, and it is up to the manager in order to, reinvigorate the team. He was asked to come in. I saw someone tweeted, a journalist earlier, I won't name him, but said that, he was asked to come in and invigorate the squad, sort of clear out. But I think there's only so much he can do. And I agree with you. Whilst we've had a lot of wholesale changes, we've got a number of players in, we had another 7 signings in the summer. I think it's up to the club as well, and certainly the people higher up to make those changes, get rid of those players, enable us for more money in order to bring in maybe a couple more players. I've seen a lot of people going in on Onana today, and talking about Alisson coming in as that final piece of the jigsaw. Maybe Onana should have been something to come in later on. Do you know what I mean? And it's very difficult to watch, isn't it? It's difficult.
Yeah, you can't compare. Can't compare us
No.
with any club. We're just totally unique, and everyone's got different circumstances. But yeah, look, it is what it is. Like I said, there's no shame. Unfortunately, losing at Brighton. It's a shame it's at home. It's a shame the record. We've been on a good streak. We just have to. Yeah, they'll be in tomorrow. Get the video on, get the analysis. Hopefully, got Mason Mount coming back. A few others as well, and then we go to Munich. It doesn't get any easier.
No.
But we need to. I think what he needs to do, he needs to make us hard to beat again, because last year we were hard to beat, we were hard to score against.
But we couldn't score.
But we couldn't score.
And now we can't score, and we're easy to beat.
At the minute, we're in the middle ground, we can't do either. So he needs to sort of go back to the fundamentals, I think, and then build on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely right. So let's talk about Højlund. Let's try and stick some positives we can.
Wait, can I make a real quick comment?
Yeah, go for it.
Some of the sadness. And I feel like we've had shows on this before, and I seem to talk about it. The world-class term. I heard, I don't know if we had different streams or whatever, but whoever one of the commentators were for the Peacock stream that I was watching, he said Ansu Fati being on loan from Barcelona, and then said something about him being world-class. And I was like, I don't remember world-class players being loaned out from their teams to go play in another country. I didn't know that was still in the definition.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that Stu, unfortunately, isn't here today.
Yeah, Stu would have
he would have got us all together, knocked our heads together, and said, "No, world class is a term that's probably overused these days." And anyway,
sorry,
is what it is. Absolutely right. So where do we go from here, Hammer? Because we got Bayern next week. If we don't do particularly well in the group stages, maybe don't get through there, that's going to be hugely damning on Erik ten Hag. He's got a huge task ahead of him, isn't he? And how do you feel? What do you think needs to change over the next few weeks, and where do we go from here?
Well, I think the next few weeks I would use the term that everybody needs to strap in, because it might be one hell of a roller coaster ride. It might be pretty bumpy. I think Ten Hag, unfortunately, I think he's going to need to be given a little bit of a leash here, and we can really, because now I don't know about you guys, but my expectations for this season have adjusted drastically, and I know there's a lot to take into consideration that we talked about, but I think forget the off-field stuff, because the off-field stuff needs to handle itself in terms of the timeline. We can't predict the timeline on when the off-field crap is going to resolve itself. The injuries we can be worried about. And so when Mount comes back, when Amrabat is healthy, and I don't understand why we brought in 2 players who came in injured, but that's a different conversation. I get that we needed them, and they probably are going to help, but that's crazy. I do agree with that about the new owners, but that seems like that I don't want to get that. I'll pop a bug conversation. But I think we need to wait until the injuries are back and Ten Hag can fully play whatever the style is that he wants to play with us. And then we have to see. So I think my answer, unfortunately, is for the next couple of weeks, we have to strap in, because Bayern's going to be a tough game because people are still injured, unless Amrabat and people like that are going to come in. I got to think about what the rest of our schedule is. But in terms of the next couple of weeks, we're going to have to be ready for some bumpy games again. And are we playing at Bayern or at Old Trafford?
Away first, isn't it?
Then we better hope for a draw, because they might smack the shit out of us. But it's gonna be a bumpy ride, and I apologize, but it's gonna be a roller coaster ride, and everybody's gonna have to strap in my opinion.
prepare yourselves. I think you're right. I think we need to bring it back to basics, really.
Definitely. Look, I'm thinking about it rationally as well. You can't change things up to Brighton at Old Trafford. You know, we've played away for so
I
long
agree.
now, and you can't just go to, you know, even if you're playing City at home, you're at home. You know, that you need to stick with what you're good at. You can't adjust. You know, and I don't usually give too much to like formations and starting positions, because in game it changes with phases anyway, and certain triggers. But like, you can't go too up like front. We know what Rashford's like, and I appreciate, like, we haven't got the light on the right. We have got a Palestri. You know, even if you can even put a Rashford on like Garnacho, you have to just go with the system and put the personnel to that system. The system is more important at this stage than the players, because we have got players that can play. He's chosen to go with like fluid, dynamic players, so we have got those options. But I just think he got it wrong from the off today, and it was a bit reminiscent of the Wolves game, with Cunha just dropping in from attack, overloading the midfield. Casemiro, he's just got too much to do, unfortunately, and they're just walking straight through instead of centrally with Wolves. It was Brighton's fullbacks. You know, it was just triangles, one pass to the fullback, run on, fullback passes it, they're in. Same thing. I mean, the first two goals were nearly identical. Cutback crosses on either side, and bang, goal. So, I just think.
So, like, because a lot of people. So, I was one of the people who I looked forward to the diamond once I saw who was starting, because I was like, I don't want to see Bruno right, so I'm hoping we're playing something different, and I was right. But I think before the starting 11 came out, a lot of people were expecting Palestri to start. So would you have preferred us to stick to right, Palestri out right, and stick to however it was our traditionally been? And it might have worked out too, because then Hoyland would have just been up top by himself and just working people.
100%, Hammer. 100%. I mean, even when he came on, I think he put a few crosses in. He offers something different, and now we've got a striker. He's that type of winger who can create, you know, as opposed to sort of an inside forward, or, you know, someone go and direct a goal. He would ultimately create.
He's your classic winger, isn't he? Really,
he is. He said it, I think, recently in an interview. He likes going around the corner and you know, varying his crosses. So I think that's what we should have done. I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but it's more, you know, with that as well. Then you've got Rashford on the left. You've got three solid midfield base. Because the problem with the diamond is you've got McTominay right covering Dalot. I thought Dalot had quite a good game actually, and then Ericsson on the left. You're isolating Casemiro again, and I just don't know from both
sides of the field.
Exactly.
I bet we're going to come to ratings in a minute. It's going to be a short show today, and my blood sugar is dropping, and no one in the house to get me any sugar. So we're going to have to not make this quick, but, you know, relatively quick. I bet you wish you had gone out now, Freddie. I wish you had as well, to be honest. Yeah? No, obviously, lovely to have you here, but I wish you'd enjoyed yourself and not come into this shit. Anyway, right. Andre and Nana, I'll come to you first, Hammer, just quickly, and obviously out of 10. And be as critical as you want for all these players today.
Yeah. I'll give him a 6.5 because a 7 be nice. You know, he gave up 3 goals, and yes, he had a few saves, but it was a rough, you know, it was a rough day in goal, and I don't think you can, even though some of the goals you can say was the defense's fault and everything like that, I don't think you can get a great rating when you give up 3 goals in that fashion at home. So yeah, I think if he hadn't given up 3 goals, he might have got a 7, because I know he did make some saves that made it less ugly than it probably could have been, especially coming up in different points coming to the end. But yeah, I'll still give him a 6.5.
Lots of criticism on Onana today. I don't know if that was the case for everyone in their conversations, but I saw a lot of criticism in our group chat today. Feel like
in terms of what? Was it saves?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people sort of talking about his shot stopping. I think that's unfair. I do think it's unfair. Maybe could have done better for 1 or 2 over the course of the few games. But yeah, a little bit unfair for me. But, you know, each to their own. Opinions are there to be had. Diogo Dalot, Freddie.
Before I get to it, I think you made a
Go
very
for
good
it.
save on Ansu Fati at the end. I think that was a very
Yeah,
good
he
save,
did.
tipped
Yeah,
it
he
around
did.
the corner. I'd have to see the João Pedro one again, but I think the other two were
He got a hand on the
tricky
João
goals.
Pedro one. He could
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just couldn't get all of it on it.
Yeah. Diego Dalla, I'd give him a 7. I don't think I'll probably give anyone higher than a 7. So I'd probably have him as a benchmark. I think he played very well. I think he did quite well against.
Yeah,
did well against Matoma. I think everyone sort of expected Wan-Bissaka to start. I think he was ill midweek, and that's why he didn't. And Wan-Bissaka usually keeps Matoma quite quiet. But I think he did well. I think he did well going forward as well. It was good to see him could go down the byline. We had the problem with the way we set up. We had no width, and you've got Højlund and Rashford in sort of in the inside channels. There was no width stretching their defence. So, they reverted to 5 at the back, and there was just no way to get through. But I think he had some good sort of outlets. He was taking on their defenders and putting a few good crosses at some points. And he was okay defensively. So I give him a 7.
Yeah, I think everyone wrote Dallo off really before the game with Matoma, but he kept him very quiet, I thought, and I think you're absolutely right there. I think that's fair. Victor Lindelof and Martinez. I'll come to you first, Freddie, with Lindelof, and then I'll come to you, Hammer, on Martinez.
I think they were very below average, both centre backs. I'll let Hammer go into Martinez, but particularly Martinez, in my opinion. Lindelof, 6. I can't really. Not much to really comment on.
No.
I think maybe the first goal. I think they were just ball watching. There's a lot of ball watching today.
They were. Particularly Lindelof and Casemiro. That was the other person. That was the other player for the first goal. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were no tracking back or tracking their defenders. A lot of ball watching. So maybe a generous 6 in that case.
Yeah. And Martinez, Hammer.
I'll give them the same ring. I'll give them a 6. But I do get what Freddie was talking about. There were times, and it was definitely at least one. He's the one he got. I think it was for the Gross. What's his name? Pascal Gross.
Pascal.
I think it was Martinez who got that little fake out that made. He went for the first fake, and then Gross just passed it into the bottom corner.
He lunged. Yeah,
he went for it. And you never dive. Don't dive as a center back. What are you doing? Especially in the box. Unless it's last opportunity or something. But I get what you mean. He was out of position for a lot, and I think he was a little. Well, no, you can't. I mean, you can say it in this case because this is when it comes to biting in the ass. This is aggressiveness, right? We need maybe a little more calm and a little more control in the back instead of aggressiveness. And he was jumping in like he does, but when we're playing the way that we do and people aren't in positions, it just leaves gaps if he doesn't make his things. And like you guys said, people were not just. I mean, very much so Casemiro because that's in his position, but a lot of people weren't tracking back today either. So,
yeah.
I think he was very poor on the ball as well today. It was a very odd one from him. He misplaced a lot of passes.
Well, I think he's been a bit poor all season, actually. I think this isn't the Martinez that we've come to love, really getting stuck in the tackle, very calm and composed. Wasn't any of that. Didn't have it against Spurs. Didn't have it against Arsenal. Yeah, very poor for Martinez, and certainly needs to step up, I think.
Maybe I won't say for the whole season, but for this game, one of the things that I noticed, and I think I tweeted at some point, is I couldn't tell if we were misplacing passes or misreading each other, and I think there was a combination of both today.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right, like there were times when
Højlund, half a dozen, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like there were times when Højlund was going to make was running one way, but you could see that whoever was passing it thought he was going to cut a different way, and I think there's maybe some communication going on as well. But
yeah, let's come to someone that did impress me today, Serge Reguilon, and I'll come to you, Freddie, on that one.
Yeah, I give him a 7. I think the fullbacks probably are two the better players today. On both sides. I think first 20 minutes he was very good, very aggressive. Obviously, it's his debut. He's got a lot of adrenaline. Home crowd on their feet certainly in the first 20 minutes. But he was very aggressive. He was overlapping as well, getting some good crosses in, going into tackles. Getting the crowds on their feet. And he made a few good tackles actually to the sort of Ivorian right mid whose name escapes me. But yeah, a 7. He's positively surprised me. I think he could be a very good option actually, which no one actually thought, I think, when we brought him in. So
No,
it sort of
no.
reminds me of he sort of played how Luke Shaw plays when Luke Shaw plays well. And this is the type of sort of going back to what I was saying. When Luke Shaw's not playing, you want sort of a similar type of player to come in. I feel like I haven't seen Malacia in a very long time, but yeah, it sort of reminded me of Luke Shaw. Yeah, so very positive debut. So very happy with him. So yeah, I think probably one of the biggest positives of today. So yeah, give him a 7, which is quite good given the circumstances of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it took us all by surprise.
Yeah.
He's only here for 6 months. Wouldn't mind him, continuing on like that. Wouldn't mind seeing him for longer. So very surprising from him. But yeah, good performance from him, as you say. Hammer, Casemiro.
I think I will go the same way that we went with the center backs and give him a 6. His passing was sloppy, like you guys said today. But like I said, I can't. There were some that were just sloppy, and there were some that I think it was just miscommunication.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he and Freddie brought it up. When he's isolated, he struggles, and I think he just doesn't have the speed and, to an extent, the legs to be covering both sides of the field like that. So he can't really be sitting there by himself in that 6. It needs to be proper pivot and all that. So, yep, I'll give him a 6 just because it was sloppy today. And again, the tracking back, they're at least two of their goals. Where was the third one? I can't. Oh yeah, the third one was Pedro, right? So that was just him hitting the shit out of it. But their first 2 goals, like you guys just said, it was just cutbacks to people trailing, and there was nobody covering the people at the edge of the box.
Yeah.
I actually think Amrabat's going to take his place, and I don't mean Casemiro will get dropped. I think he'll play further forward, or he might do. I think the best. How shall I put it? I've thought about this a lot recently, and how can we have gone from Frankie De Jong to Casemiro? Right, you can't go from one to the other. I think that 6 position is probably the most important position in the current game at the minute. You look at Rodri, you look how Liverpool have invested. Yeah, Liverpool bought 4 midfielders, right? I know they needed to. They've reduced their age.
Still haven't got Chelsea. 6 either. Still haven't got 6. They're going to struggle. They're going to struggle.
But I honestly think that the way Ten Hag wants to play, right, with bringing in Onana, bringing in Martinez, you need somewhat. He's going for he wants a more technical player, I think, in that position. And I think Amrabat's the one, a progressor, effectively, an actual 6. I think the best we've seen out of Casemiro, personally, certainly back in the last year, was when in the attacking aspects. He gets his goals. He's actually quite a good sort of late box runner. And I actually think that people thinking Amrabat's going to do that. Well, I think Amrabat's going to be the deeper player, and Casemiro's going to push forward and play as that sort of 8, and then Bruno ahead of him. I might be completely wrong, but it'd be interesting.
Freddie, I think that's a really good shout, actually, and I think it is a conversation Stu and I have had as well. And I think today, very, very leggy, and I think we have seen a lot more going forward from him. And I think you're right. I think I don't think he's completely sold on Casemiro playing as that 6, and I think you're right. I think you might see Amrabat there and maybe Casemiro playing further forward. It would give us a little bit more of an option, I think. We'll see. Ericsson, before I come to Ericsson and asking Freddie for your input on him as well, he's come out and said a couple of things here, so I'm going to go through those. So he said, it's a heavy one. We have to look at ourselves. We changed some things, but we are disappointed. In the first half, we had a lot of moments, had good control. They had a lot of possession, but not many chances. They then score in their first chance, and the system they play... Oh, Christ, I don't think this is written down very well. And the system they play, they keep the ball a lot, and we had to chase it down. But we still had chances to get back into the game. It then goes on to say the small things that we need to change. We had an offside at Arsenal, and today when we scored, but it was out of play. I mean, that we haven't even come to that. I think it was out. I think it was out. And, fine margins and all that. But I did see one of our good friends, Benny, tweet about it. He said that VAR is killing the game a little bit. We had Keith, wonderful show with Stu earlier in the week. Really, really good. Killing the game a little bit. Celebrating probably was out. We've seen a couple, Brighton, Liverpool last season, exactly the same thing happened. The goal was given. World Cup, they had the technology to give it. It's very difficult, isn't it? Very
Just
difficult.
real quick, can I just say as a criticism though, because VAR we've had it for a few years, right? And I know sometimes some of y'all in the football world like me talking about some of the American stuff, but they started something similar. I think at the end of last season, the NFL or something like that, or like one of the like playoffs or something very recent. And I don't understand how it seemed a lot more efficient when the NFL was doing it. I know we had replays and stuff all the time that we actually like stopped and look at for different things, but I just don't understand how VAR has been going on now for however many years since it started, and it's still so time consuming and so inconsistent. That's the stuff
Yeah,
that frustrates.
inconsistency. Yeah, we said this.
It's the people operating it. It's the people operating it. It always is. It's just a system at the end of the day. It's the people behind the hammer, and I mean, you can count literally on your hand how many we've had against us this season, and it is getting ridiculous. And just quickly on that one, why is there no bird's eye view on it? I mean, even the goal line technology. I mean, they do that sort of block the goal,
isn't it
don't
all
they?
the way down the line?
Yeah,
I thought until these things come to bite us on the arse, I thought that the whole technology was all the way down.
Yeah.
So what? Oh man, honestly, very disappointing. Anyway, can't sometimes you win and sometimes you lose them, but there's a lot going on at the minute, and you've got to question quite a bit. Ten Hag has come out and said very disappointed with the result. We played quite well in the first half with many chances, but we had two setbacks, starting with their goal and then the disallowed goal. He said absolutely the system worked. The first 20 minutes we were very good. We have to stick to the plan despite the goal, but because it worked well, we had quite a few chances. But of course, coming out the second half didn't work, did it? Right, coming to Ericsson then, Freddie.
6. Don't think he did much. Did a nice little spin first half, which is his
I
highlight.
was excited. That had me.
But that was his best action of the game. I don't think he had much to offer really. Sort of more on the left, I think, in the first half. But 6, surprised he lasted 90 minutes. I think he lasted 90 minutes.
He did.
Yeah, surprised he lasted that long. So
he probably
just an average 6.
Bayern.
Probably struggle.
Well, with any luck, we'll see some Amrabat, see what he's made of, and see what he can do. McTominay went a bit quiet in the second half, but I thought was very good actually in the first. Personally, I thought he was sort of playing a higher role, something that we're more, systematically better with. You saw him in the 6 too often, obviously, back in the day. But McTominay, hammer over to you.
I mean, just with the split of the halves, I'll probably also give him a 6, but I do agree. In the first half, he did play better. And I think it was just because we did have some control earlier in that half, and what was being required of him is what he's good at. Right? He's good at the high energy, he's good at the press, and he can do some stuff when he gets into the final third because, God damn it, he's played in every freaking position on the pitch. He started as a striker as a youth.
He was
midfield, plays center back for his country. Damn. Anyways, but
what can't he do? What can't he do, eh?
Stay consistent.
Please the fans.
Okay,
Please the fans.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
But yeah, when he was doing well in the game, it was because what was required of him and how we were playing is what he excels at. But yeah, I still give him a 6 because, like Freddie said, there's not too much of positive ratings that need to be given out in today's matches.
Bruno Fernandes. Freddie, over to you. We're going to make these quicker now, I think. But Bruno Fernandes, go on.
6. I don't think I can give him any higher than 6. A bit frustrating at times. He was getting frustrated.
He was.
He didn't have enough of the ball and
carded early. To
be honest,
as well.
Carded early. Yeah, rather silly. Shouldn't have, let his emotion get the best of him. But there was no space for the runners ahead of him. I think Brighton, you just got to praise their defensive sort of solidity as well, and that takes him out of the game a bit. So 6.
Yeah, and played at centre back. Where can't he play as well? Anyway, Marcus Rashford.
Wasn't happy about that.
Yeah, go on, Hammer. Marcus Rashford.
I'll give him a 6.5 because he did play really well in the first half. and created a lot of chances. And I appreciated him actually. You can see, you could tell the efforts when he was trying to cut it back because he knew Hoyland was there, or he knew he could get Hoyland an opportunity instead of him just trying to, like pull a Ronaldo and like chop it back or some shit and then smash a shot. But he did very much so not only fall off in terms of quality going forward, but also in effort. I think for a big part of the second half, he was walking a lot of the times and just throwing his hands up, which frustrates me when he starts doing that. It's a pain. So yeah, I'll give him a 6.5.
He's going to be the one that gets battered today, I think, which is unwarranted because I think no one really, apart from the fullbacks,
deserved it.
But I've got a feeling he's going to get a bit of stick. I've got a bit of empathy because they're playing out of position. They're just. Yeah, his decision making was a bit poor at times. Maybe should have passed into the shoot.
Always been a thing, though, isn't it?
Always been a thing.
Rashford.
Yeah. But look, Rashford is good.
Yeah, we can't pretend that we're surprised by it. Do you know what I mean? It's always been a concern.
Exactly. So yeah, a little bit of empathy, but he needs to improve nonetheless.
Yeah, just want to say, Richard, it's been a long time since I've seen you in the comments, my man, and great to have you back with us. And obviously your comments as always. Not gonna read all this, but it did make me chuckle. But it's good to have you back nonetheless. If anyone subs Hoyland with Martial and questioner Sansi, I don't think he really had a choice. I think this kind of highlights the strength in depth we have, and he wasn't gonna, he's trying to sort of ease Hoyland in, and obviously lasted 60 minutes. So we will come to. Been a while, moved house. I hope that went well. I know it's a stressful time, but good to have you back with us, my man. So then, Hoyland, Rasmus Hoyland, who wants him?
I'll go for him. I think it was a hard match for him. I think he was starved of service. I'd give him a 6, but very, very unlucky not to get his sort of goal on his home debut. I think very, very unlucky. All he had was a few cutback crosses from Rashford, and Lewis Dank's a very good defender. There was a good tussle between the two of them. But again, positive. He's got minutes under his belt, so I'll give him a 6. But very, very unlucky not to get on the score sheet. I need to see that again. That sort of ball millimeters off, if it actually was, and if
it's tough.
If it should have stood, I won't be happy.
Yeah, so tough. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk about it. Just to cheer everyone up, I had a clip of everyone blames me for these reactions, okay, and I have to hold my ground. Not my fault at all, but actually, I found a clip which I feel like has probably derailed the season. So have a look at this quickly.
I can't wait for the new season. Absolutely looking forward to
it. So if you want to blame me,
I'm sorry. Why did that look like a scene off The Office?
It did. It did. Our Stu, that was actually a clip from many, many years ago. But our Stu, obviously, looking forward to the season. And where's it got us, Stu? Anyway, listen, boys, really appreciate you coming on today. Very, very difficult, obviously. Very, very difficult. And hopefully we can get back to winning ways. We need to get some sort of positivity back. Very difficult to be positive about our club at the moment. Very frustrating. But listen, I really appreciate you two for coming on and obviously trying to dissect it in the way that you have. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of digest and try and get something out of it. Listen, really appreciate it. Obviously enjoy the rest of your weekends, everybody, and hopefully now we can just forget about it, move on, and look forward to the Bayern game next week. But until then, we'll see you soon.